What's up, folks? Welcome back to TacticalTortoise. My name is Trevi, and I've got a little bit of a love-hate relationship with Games Workshop at the moment because they've been releasing so much freaking sweet news over the last week that I've just been making so much content. Just today, Games Workshop released a new trailer for a brand new animation coming to Warhammer Plus that looks like it may be the best one yet, Pariah Nexus, but that's not what we're here to talk about. You can go check that trailer out. I think it mostly speaks for itself. The cool thing about it is that it's an evolution of the initial cinematic for Warhammer 40,000 9th edition. It looks like it includes a lot of the same characters and might actually tie into the Kill Team animation as well. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, what I want to talk about is the trailer that they released, Warhammer 40,000 in 2023, which gave some previews of things that we've already seen, such as models coming from Arcs of Omen, including Vashtor and a lot of the new World Eater stuff. Now, most importantly, in that video, we also got some sneak previews, little flashes of silhouettes of new models, and in those, there's some really cool tidbits. So what we're going to do is just break down real quick what we have in this trailer. The first preview looks to be a Drukhari Kabalite warrior. He's carrying what looks to be a unique weapon. At least I can't identify the rifle that the model's holding in its right hand based on the silhouette. The left hand of the model has a razor wing on it, which is pretty cool. At least I'm very confident this is a razor wing. It looks very similar to the razor wing flock models. Compared to other Kabalite warriors, this dude looks pretty tricked out, so I imagine that he's most likely a Trueborn or a character of some kind. Either way, looking great, and I absolutely love it. Now we're gonna move on to what looks to me like a new Orc model. This looks like an Orc Commando, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that this looks almost identical to the current Boss Snickrot model. It has a lot of the same accoutrements. He has the curved blades that look almost identical to the ones that Snickrot currently has in the current version of his model. He's got the big backpack that's a little bit lopsided, just like Boss Snickrot's, and he's even got some hooks coming off the back of his base, although I'm not entirely sure whether that's the war gear that Snickrot has hanging off his back, or it's part of a scenic base that the model might be standing on. But I imagine that this may be what ends up being a plastic re-release of Boss Snickrot. Now, next up we have what looks to me to be a Tau model. And this one's actually a little bit in question because this looks aesthetically very different from a lot of other Tau. Although if we're analyzing the photo, we can see what looks to be some jetpacks like a Crisis Battlesuit jump pack. This also kind of follows a lot of the design aesthetics that a lot of Tau Battlesuits have, especially in that it has those big, thick with 2Cs thighs and much slighter, a lot more elongated down in the shin and calf area. We can also see that it has that little bit of a vestigial toe that Tau and their battle suits also have sticking at the back there. So I'm pretty confident that this is a Tau model, but it looks different than any other Tau model that we've seen. Just the proportions of the suit itself are much different. It has those longer, more slender legs instead of being as chunky as other battlesuit varieties, although we have been seeing the aesthetic of Tau's move to a more streamlined version from their original Crisis Battlesuit models, especially with units like Shadow Sun, who's been getting sleeker and sleeker as she continues to get models. This model also looks to be wielding what appears to be a big, cool sword, so it could potentially be a re-release of Commander Farsight in a new and upgraded battlesuit. Although Commander Farsight does have a plastic model right now, I don't know if they would want to re-release him just at this time. So it could also be another character, potentially another character from the Farsight Enclaves, another member of the 8, Farsight's own cadre of Tau commanders, or an entirely new character we've never seen before. I want to shout out as well the cool scenic base on the base of this model. It looks like they're sort of kind of prancing through some what look like alien cherry blossoms, which is, you know, it's very appropriate for Tau. It also looks like the backpack has some quality of life updates from previous versions of the Tau Battlesuit backpacks, in that it has these vectored thrusters on the back, whereas the previous ones just have one row of thrusters. It looks like these ones actually will have little fins that will allow it more maneuverability. Very excited to see more of this model because you can really only see the lower half right now, but I'm sure it's going to be pretty cool once it's fully released. Next up, we have what appears to be a Primaris Space Marine. The silhouette of this is very interesting because it's actually kind of giving me some Suppressor vibes. Clearly, this is a Primaris Space Marine in just the standard Intercessor armor, but carrying a big, heavy weapon. Its backpack has what looks like a huge sort of Omnispecs scope thing mounted to it, like the Devastator Sergeants have in the Firstborn Marine Devastator Squad. But it also has what looks like a 2 or 3 barreled, maybe like a multiple rocket launcher, maybe a mortar system. I'm getting a little bit of a callback to the Vengeance launcher from Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine, although this thing is also attached to a huge ammunition feed that looks like feeds into a large hopper that's hanging off the Space Marine's belt as well. So it could be a rapid fire weapon that requires a big ammunition store. I don't know, but I think this kind of heralds that we may be getting more varieties of those heavy weapon Primera Space Marines that we don't really have so far. Obviously, there's Hellblasters, there's Suppressors, Eliminators, I guess, kind of count, but other than that, there's not really a Devastator equivalent, and it looks like this guy is maybe what that's going to be. It also looks like I think he's on a 32mm base, not a 40mm, which is pretty interesting. Now, last but certainly not least in this video, I want to talk about what is probably the mystery model from the previews. It's what looks to be sort of an armored human figure who has a storm shield and some sort of power maul. And I puzzled my head over this one for a little bit before I think I came to the conclusion that I'm pretty sure this is a plastic sculpt for an Adeptus Arbite, which is frickin' sick. If we compare the design of the armor to the classic Adeptus Arbites models, we can see that there is a lot of similarities. Classic Arbites have this band on their faceplate that we can kind of see represented on the model's helmet. They're often depicted with a flared base to the helmet that we can clearly see in the silhouette of this model. And their classic sculpts also had asymmetric shoulder pads. One of their shoulder pads was larger than the other ones. As we can see in this model, it looks like the two shoulder pads, well, not necessarily dramatically larger than the other ones. One of them has more of a neck guard, and then the other one is a little bit more flared and more ostentatious. Given that they're generally peacekeepers, Adeptus Arbites also favor non-lethal weaponry, especially things like power mauls, which this model is carrying, and he has what looks to be a riot-style storm shield, which is another hallmark of Adeptus Arbites. I think if we put all of the little tidbits together, this certainly looks to me like an Arbite, which is really cool. We haven't seen an Arbite released for 40k in a super long time. I know we did have the Palatine Enforcers for Necromunda, and that has basically been the closest that we've gotten. Those guys were very specifically not a resculpt or a reimagining of the Arbites. They're, I think, more of a private military force, if I remember the background of that particular set correctly. Now, obviously, we don't know if these are going to be for Warhammer 40,000 proper or one of the spin-off games. I have to imagine that some of these entries, specifically like maybe that Drukhari guy, are from upcoming Kill Team releases, and this Arbite may be something similar. I have to imagine that an Arbite release would probably be in Necromunda, where the Arbite models were originally released anyway. So I don't know if that will be making it to Warhammer 40,000 proper, although I have a hard time imagining that a Space Marine, which with what looks to be like an indirect fire heavy weapon and a big Tau battlesuit are going to fit into those smaller scale games. That's it for me today, everyone. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. Big thanks as well to everyone who supports the channel, either over on Patreon at patreon.com/TacticalTortoise, and YouTube channel members, Twitch subscribers. All you people are great. I love you. Or to keep it classy, folks, and have happy wargaming.